Alrighty. Welcome everybody back to the show. It's Money Making Monday. My name's CJ. Thank you so much for joining me this morning for some player prop research over on PrizePicks. If you're new to the channel, we do this every day, 11 a.m. Eastern time. I go over some points, some rebounds, assists, fantasy scores, three-point makes, sometimes some free throw makes, whatever PrizePicks decides they want to throw up on the board. That's what we talk about. So I appreciate everybody joining me this morning. All the support has been tremendous over the last year, and I'm looking to keep that momentum going here in 2022. So thank you to everybody who's in the chat this morning. Love to see the turnout. We got 5 NBA games that we're going to be talking about this morning. Not a huge slate, kind of a small to medium-sized slate, but I'm going to try and get you guys set up for success here and start our player prop research the right way. If you're not playing on PrizePicks yet, now's a great time to do so. 100% instant deposit match is still going on using promo code Curry. I know you see the promo code floating above my head, or you can use the link down in the description below, but either way you go about it, if you use promo code Curry, they're going to double your first deposit. If you put in $100, they're going to match that, giving you $200 to get you started on your PrizePicks journey. Or maybe you just want to dip your toe in the water. Maybe you don't want to dive in head first. Maybe you just want to try it out. If you just want to try it out, drop $20 in. They'll double that up, giving you $40. Either which way, you're going to get your first deposit all the way up to $100 matched instantly. So definitely check out PrizePicks. It's my favorite way to play daily fantasy sports. It's also my favorite way to play player props. It's the only site that I know of that you can miss one and still make some money. They have flex options, power options. You can win up to 15 times your money. All sorts of good stuff going on there on PrizePicks. So let's run through the chat real quick and see what everybody's talking about. We're getting caught up on the weekend. Jeremy's up in here. Shout out to Jeremy. Thank you for always showing support, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Jimmy's up in here. He says, good morning, beautiful people. I'm always legit losing my 5-pick entry to one guy. So you're like a 4 out of 5 guy. Yeah, I'm starting to call myself the king of 4 out of 5. Those 5 of 5s are super hard to hit, man. They are super difficult. But maybe we could get you one today. Mac B says, bad weekend, ready to get it back at it. Run them likes up. Shout out to the Patreon family. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mac B, for shouting out the Patreon family. There's still plenty of time left in the month of January. If you want to join us in Patreon, ain't nothing too serious going on over there. You know, we're just having a good time. We're coming together as a community. We're bonding over sports, bonding over PrizePicks, player props. And I'm in there, active in Discord doing player prop research daily. So, yeah, it's a good time. Like I said, nothing, nothing too crazy going on. We don't have the secret to success in there or anything, or the fountain of youth. You won't find that in there. You won't find any crystal balls or anything like that. But we've got a lot of diehard people who really like to dive in and do some research on some NBA player props. So it's been a joy to have all of you folks up in the community. So definitely, as Mac B said, shout out to the Patreon community. Low Baller says, good morning. Let's get the money. Tony, good morning. Yeah, it was a great weekend for Tony, he says, besides Friday. Money Making Monday is underway. Absolutely. Ronald's Green back up in the building. What's up to you? He's another one of the Patreon members. Appreciate you being in the community. Appreciate you supporting my content and what I do as well, Ronald. Goes a long way, man. Ben up in here. Yo, what's good with you? JY says, hope everyone had a great weekend. Let's get it today. Yes, I echo that sentiment. I hope everybody had a great weekend out there and you're recharged, refreshed, and ready to get back to some player prop research. Josh says, oh man, glad to be back. Had COVID all last week. That's not good, Josh. I hope you're doing better. Sounds like he's ready to get back to it though. So hopefully you're on the upswing and you're feeling better, my friend. King Chris says, Monday, good day to make some money. Absolutely. Jodinho, Money Making Monday, for sure, for sure. Royster's up in the building. Let's get after it. Trill Fate says he's been crushing lately. Love to hear the success. Trill Fate, you're here almost every single time I'm live, man. So I appreciate you tuning in and dropping by, and love to see that you're winning. Nick says, let's go. Happy Monday. Hit a 5 out of 5 and a 4 out of 4 last night. Nothing but 150, but we'll always take it. Yeah, dude, $150. Anytime you're winning like triple digits, really, anytime you're winning anything, it's a good day, right? So you can't be mad at winning 150 bucks. Don't dismiss that. Don't sweep that under the rug like it's insignificant or that it's not a good amount of money, man. 150 bucks is a good amount of money. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching right now that wish they could bag a $150 win. What's up to Contract Killer? Martin's back up in here. Haven't been playing PrizePicks, but I'm going to hop back on. New York has legalized sportsbook, so I've been having a lot of fun. Well, shout out to you, Martin. Glad you're having some fun. JW, good morning. Nick says, correction, Saturday and Sunday. Oh, okay. From your previous comment. I got you. I'm following along. What's your most favorite pick today, bro? Well, we haven't even started doing any research yet. We're going to be looking at it together for the first time. All right. Jay Manzo, you're talking about Lance Stevenson. Maybe we'll get into him. Eric says I had a 15X that would have hit, but Draymond and the situation absolutely destroyed my winning ticket. Yeah, I heard what happened with Draymond Green. That kind of sucks. I guess he checked in for like, a second or something. He just wanted to be out there for Klay Thompson's return. Didn't actually play, but the fact that he checked in and took the court, I guess by the rules of many sports books and operators, that counted as him being an active player. Steven says, hey, new to this, started PrizePicks last week, turned 20 into 90, looking to continue that momentum. Well, hopefully we can have a helping hand in getting you there. E. Wicker says, need a bounce back today. Yesterday was terrible. Darian says, CJ, what's your thoughts on Bojan Bogdanovic? Well, we'll get into some plays later on. If you have some specific particular plays that you're looking for answers to, hold those down. Hold those off until the end of the show, and then we'll do a little lightning round. I'll help you with your research. Roni, it was a tough day for a lot of us. Yeah, yesterday was kind of crazy. A lot of guys sold. John Collins over 16.5 points ended up being a major flop. I know some folks were on Malik Monk to go over, I think he was at 16.5 or 17.5 points. He decided to not show up. So yeah, there was definitely some letdowns. There's going to be. There's going to be, guys, and we just have to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves in terms of how much we're putting out there, how much we're risking night in and night out, and that's, we're setting ourselves up for success over the long run, over the macro instead of the micro. In other words, you don't have to win all the money every single day. There's going to be tomorrow, and then there's going to be a day after that, and a day after that, and a day after that. So pace yourself. Pace yourself. It's a long NBA season. Plenty of road ahead here, folks. We don't need to go hard. We don't need to throw $1,000 in entries out there. We don't need to put $100 in entries out there if we can't swing it. So only risk what you can afford to lose. And let's pace ourselves here and try to have some fun every single day. That's the most important thing. Let's have some fun. This is supposed to be fun, right? So let's make sure we're set up for success and that we're having fun doing it. Anthony Taylor, let's go. Thanks for joining me again, Anthony. This guy's here almost every single morning. Every single morning. Been a long time supporter, and I appreciate you, man. Matt, good morning to all. Great weekend. Love to hear that. Jung, Rashawn Holmes still on the injury report. We'll have to wait and see on that. JMN, what's happening? Yayo, let's get it. Ja says, what's up? Yes, I'm back streaming Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. You catch me right here. Juju says, what's up? Been a minute. Well, good to have you back, my friend. It's a good time to get back on. And Derek says, FanDuel voided Draymond for everyone. Oh, that's interesting. I guess different operators handling it different ways. What's up to you, Lewis? All right, folks, that's enough of the shout outs. Let's get down to business. Normally, I got my little number fire game breakdown here, but let's go ahead and pull it up since I'm unprepared this morning. There we go. All right, so 5 NBA games to take a look at, folks. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting things off with the 7 p.m. contest between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Charlotte Hornets. You gotta love the total on this game, 234.5 points. Just a 2-point spread as well. So this game looks like it's gonna be high scoring. It looks like it's gonna stay close. Looks like it's gonna be a competitive game. For the Bucks, Pat Connaughton, game time decision. He's probably the most impactful one to keep an eye out on. Already ruled out are Brook Lopez, Grayson Allen, Drew Holiday, and George Hill. So the Bucks pretty thin in their backcourt. We'll have to see if Pat Connaughton laces up the sneakers or not. Over on the Charlotte side, they're pretty much healthy. They were one of the teams that I think got the COVID stuff out of the way early on. So their roster's pretty much running at full strength. Vernon Carey Jr., I think that's his first name, he is ruled out for this one. So that'll be a fun game. High totals and a close competitive spread. 7 p.m. also brings us the Utah Jazz at the Detroit Pistons. Another game with a pretty nice total here, 224 implied points, 11-point spread. 11-point spread, and that's in favor of the Utah Jazz. So we know the Detroit Pistons not a very good team, but there are a number of names to be on the lookout for the Utah Jazz. Already ruled out is Rudy Gobert, Fitz, Hughes, Ingles, and Gay. So the Jazz will be getting Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell back. Bogdanovich should be in there. O'Neal and Hassan Whiteside will fill in for Rudy Gobert. Looking at the Detroit Pistons side, Jeremy Grant has already been ruled out. Livers, one day I'll figure out how to say this young man's last name. Olynyk and Jackson already ruled out for Detroit. So Detroit's pretty much back to their starting lineup minus Jeremy Grant. And then the Utah Jazz, they're getting a lot of their players back. A lot of guys sat out the last game for Utah. So for me, that game's probably going to be a first half only type of play, being that it is an 11-point spread. This game could blow out, high blowout risk. 7:30 p.m. Indiana Pacers at the Boston Celtics, 214-point total. Not a super high total, but decent. 6.5-point spread favoring the home team, the guys in green, the Boston Celtics. If we take a look at the Indiana side, we got some major question marks to keep an eye out on. The biggest one being Malcolm Brogdon. Is he in or is he out? Right now, he is slated in the starting lineup according to Number Fire. We'll have to keep an eye out on that, though. Jackson and Craig, both also game time decisions. Looking at the rest of the injury news here, TJ McConnell already ruled out. Bitadze, Anderson, Warren, and Karis LeVert all out for Indiana. Over on the other side, nothing real impactful there. Boston pretty much back up to full strength with Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Robert the Time Lord Williams. 7:30 also brings us the San Antonio Spurs at the New York Knicks, 212.5 point total. Not a very high total in this game, but nonetheless, 6-point spread. This one's not really a super high blowout risk for me. I think it stays close and competitive, according to the Vegas lines makers. Looking at the injury news for the Spurs, first and foremost, Doug McDermott, game time decision. He is typically in the starting lineup. Right now, he is slated to be in the starting lineup, according to the Number Fire projections here. Collins, Vassell, Johnson, Young, White, and Jones are already ruled out for San Antonio. So the big ones here, no Derek White, no Keldon Johnson for the San Antonio Spurs. Looking over at the Knicks side of things, we're going to have to pay attention to Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, and Nerlens Noel. All three of those guys are game time decisions. No Derrick Rose at the moment. He has already been ruled out. And Arcia Concano, that guy, he's already ruled out as well. So decent total on this game. Spread looks like it's going to stay pretty close and competitive as well. Looking at the next game, the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Sacramento Kings, 220 implied point total. 220 implied point total is a nice healthy total. 5-point spread from this game. We got Colin Sexton, Ricky Rubio, and Isaac Okoro for the Cavaliers already ruled out. 3 very impactful backcourt players for Cleveland, so they're going to be going with the likes of Darius Garland and Lamar Stevens, who's been starting the last handful of games for the Cavs. Looking at the Sacramento side of things, we got Woodard, Holmes, and Harkless, all game time decisions. Jones already ruled out. So right now, it looks like, according to you folks who were asking about Richaun Holmes, it looks like Richaun Holmes is slated to be in. All right, so it'll be Richaun Holmes, Marvin Bagley, Harrison Barnes, Tyrese Halliburton, and De'Aaron Fox. All right, going down to the next game, Philadelphia 76ers at the Houston Rockets. Philadelphia 226.5 implied point total, 10.5 point spread here. So this game does have blowout risk written all over it. I think the last time that Joel Embiid faced off against the Houston Rockets, he dominated them pretty well, right? So I don't think we have any of those. Well, we didn't have any 76ers on the board, but it looks like we do have one now with Joel Embiid. Nonetheless, nice total. Big time spread, meaning this game's probably going to blow out. Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, Springer, Milton, and Reed already ruled out for Philly. Over on the other side for Houston, Queen, game time decision. Garuba, Sengun, and Brooks already ruled out for the Rockets. Moving on down to the last game, the late night hammer, the 10 p.m. game. Brooklyn Nets, Portland Trail Blazers, 228.5 total. Love to see that. Spread is 9.5, meaning this game probably will get out of hand at some point. LaMarcus Aldridge missed the last game, but him being a former Portland Trailblazer drafted by the Blazers, I have a funny feeling that he's going to have a good chance of playing tonight. I think he probably tries to suit up and get back out there in front of those Portland Trailblazers fans. What do you guys think? Over on the Blazers side, McCollum and Lillard continue to sit out for Portland. No Larry Nance Jr., no Norman Powell. He's kind of a more recent injury news piece, and no Williams as well. So high totals in that game, but the spread is 9.5. So there you have it. That's the full rundown of the games tonight. Let's go ahead and start getting down to some player prop talk. Starting things off as we typically do with points, let me refresh the Action Labs tool and make sure we have all the latest projections loaded up. Perfecto. Looking at the chat, seeing what you guys are talking about in here. Appreciate everybody who's joining me this morning. Yeah, winning is fun. Agreed with you there, Michael Collier. Winning is always fun. The more we win, the more fun we have, right? So we're definitely trying to win. We're definitely out here trying to win. Does it always happen? Doesn't always happen. It doesn't always happen. Michael Madrano says, "Good morning, CJ. I'm back after you helped me win some money on Thursday. Let's keep it up. Let's get it going." Mike G5 wants to see some unders. You guys want me to talk about all unders today? I won't talk about all unders. What I will do, though, is we'll look at a couple of overs and a couple of unders. I typically try to do that, at least, pitch the idea of going under on one particular player with a low hit rate. But we could definitely look at some more unders tonight. Let's go ahead and do what Yoquan is saying, which is let's get to this chicken. Starting things off with some players who have been hitting their point prop at a pretty high clip. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about Jaylen Brown, who's at 23.5 points. He's facing off against the Indiana Pacers. Now, the last 2 games for Jaylen Brown have been a little shaky, a little bit dicey here. But at 23.5 over the last 10 games, 80% hit rate at covering this prop. He's averaging 28.4 points per game over the last 5 games. Now, I will mention, as I was talking about with some folks in Discord this morning, Jason Tatum missed like 4 games for the Boston Celtics from the end of December to the beginning of January. So we have to keep that in mind. When we look at game logs here, last 5 game logs and so on, be careful with some of these game logs because they can be misleading. They can be a little deceiving. So in the case of Jaylen Brown and the rest of the Boston Celtics, the last 2 games in his game log, December 31st and January 2nd, were without Jason Tatum. Okay, so you're going to have to start looking at maybe the larger sample size, like last 10 hit rates. That's where a site like Props.Cash can really come in handy. So if you haven't ever used Props.Cash before, there's a link down in the description below. You sign up for your first month of Props.Cash. Promo code Curry will get you 25% off of your first month. But it's a great player prop research tool to look at things like last 10 game hit rates, last 30 games, season long hit rates, stuff like that. So we might need to start looking at a larger sample size here, because these last 5 game logs that we look at could be a little bit skewed as players are in and out of the lineup due to COVID, injuries, and what have you. So once things kind of smooth out, maybe post All-Star break, then we could start relying on these last 5 games, pending that COVID's still not screwing things up across the NBA. So that was a discussion we had in Discord early this morning, and I think it carries some weight, something you should consider. Look at last 10 games instead of last 5. Maybe even look at last 30 or season averages a little bit more when these teams have their full complement of players. But nonetheless, back on track here with Jaylen Brown. We're going to take a look at this matchup. He's going up against the Indiana Pacers tonight. Brown, typically the shooting guard here against the Indiana Pacers. So we're going to look at the last 15 games instead of just the last 7. Like I said, broadening our horizons a little bit, looking at a little bit of a larger sample size here. So we're going to go down. We're going to find the Indiana Pacers. They're giving up about 22.7 points per game. So if you look at that, that kind of puts them right around the top 10th most points allowed over the last 15 games to the shooting guard position. And with Jaylen Brown struggling in his last 2 games, both against the New York Knicks, maybe this is a good spot for him to bounce back against a Indiana Pacers team that's dealing with a ton of backcourt injuries. So we'll head on over to Action Labs. We'll type in Jaylen Brown's name. I've got him projected for 25.7 points, which puts him over 23.5 by 2.2. So we love the edge that we're seeing there. And then 3 different sports books have him at 23.5, and on 2 of them, he is a betting favorite at the moment to cover this player prop against the Pacers. So Jaylen Brown could be a good way to go if you're looking to take an under or an over. We're not looking to take unders on this one. We're looking to take an over on Jaylen Brown's points. Another guy that somebody mentioned in Discord this morning is Bojan Bogdanovic. Bogdanovic has been crushing his point props lately. Utah Jazz small forward. He's at 19.5 points. So this is another situation where, you got to dig in a little bit deeper past the game logs. Got to dig a little bit deeper. Can't just rely on these like 5-game logs or the 10-game logs. You got to dig in, see who was in, who was out for the Utah Jazz. And like in this case, Bogdanovic drops 21 against Indiana in his last game, which looks great. It looks awesome on paper. But there was no Mike Conley, no Donovan Mitchell, I don't think, for that game. So you're going to have to start paying attention to see who was in during this game and who was out over these last 5 games, 10 games, whatever span you're looking at. But nonetheless, Bogdanovic, 70% hit rate in his last 10 games. So 7 out of 10 games, he has covered 19.5 points. He's going up against a pretty bad Detroit team. At 19.5 in his last 5 games, he's covered in 5 straight games. It's a 100% hit rate. But we talked about this one having a high risk for blowout. So if you want to play Bogdanovic, I recommend you might want to just look at the first half only. First half only for him, okay? Because if this game blows out, this guy may not be out there in the fourth quarter. Detroit's not very good. Utah, pretty damn good. And there's a high chance, high risk here for this game to blow out. But nonetheless, let's look at the matchup. Bogdanovic, the true small forward here for the Utah Jazz, looking at the last 15 games instead of the last 7. If you want to look at the last 7, you can. If you want to look at the season averages, you can. Last 30, they offer all of that on this little Fantasy Pros defense versus position tool. But in this case, last 15 games, let's go see how many points are given up by the Detroit Pistons. The first most points allowed over the last 15 games to opposing small forwards, 26.7 points per game. So I would say that for Bogdanovic, this looks like a pretty good matchup. Now, we could also look and see how many points they're giving up to the shooting guard position. Just in case Mitchell, Bogdanovic, kind of they flip-flop shooting guard, small forward. It's kind of becoming more and more a positionless NBA game. But nonetheless, still a great matchup here, giving up about 24 points per game over the last 15 games to opposing shooting guards. So Mitchell and Bogdanovic, I think, are both in really good spots against this Detroit Pistons team. But first half only. So let's go take a look at the projection here for Bogdanovic. I got him at 21.3 points, which is a over. Obviously, that's more than 19.5 by nearly 2 whole points. We look across the board here. We've got him at 19.5 on 3 out of 4 different books. Now, 19.5, he's a betting favorite to go over his player prop. But we also see him at 20.5 on one other site. At 20.5, they're taking the under, -135 to go under 20.5. So somewhere between 19.5 and 20.5 points for Bojan Bogdanovic is kind of what we should expect. But again, first half only play for me because I'm worried that this game blows out. So one way that you could do some quick and dirty first half only research, StatMuse. StatMuse is totally free. All you would need to do is type in Bojan Bogdanovic first half points game logs. Something like that should get you the results you want. And then it'll show you here over the last however many games, this is how many first half points this guy has scored. And then you would go over to the PrizePicks board, NBA 1H, NBA first half. Go find Bogdanovic. He's at 9.5 points. And then you would just look here at these bar graphs. You could kind of see how many times over this span that he's covered 9.5 first half only points. So we love the matchup here against Detroit, but we don't love the fact that this game could blow out, which is why we're looking at it as a first half only play. So Bogdanovic looking like he's in a pretty good spot today. So with a couple of the over options out of the way, you guys have been clamoring for some under plays. So let's look at some of the guys with the lowest hit rates. Do we want to go under on the other guy here from Boston, Jason Tatum? We talked about Jaylen Brown maybe being in a good spot for an over. Maybe Jason Tatum could be an under option. Looking at his last 5 games here, it's been a bit of a struggle. He's only covered 26.5 points one time in his last 5 games. That's just a 20% hit rate. He's averaging 23.4 points in that span. Now, if we open this up to the last 10 games, his hit rate's 30%, which means 3 out of 10 games he's covered 26.5 points. So what do we think about Jason Tatum tonight? Is he a candidate for an under? Well, he could be. So let's go look at the matchup. He is the true small forward for the Boston Celtics. Now, sometimes he does move over to the power forward spot. Like Robert Williams goes out. Maybe Al Horford moves to center. Jason Tatum then takes over the power forward position. But nonetheless, let's go look at this matchup. We go down a ways here. We're looking for the Indiana Pacers. Let's see where they're at. My eyes are deceiving me. There they are. Giving up about 19.3 points per game, which is like toward the middle, but down toward the bottom of the middle. So they're a tough defensive matchup for opposing small forwards in the points column. So this could be an option for you to go under. They're giving up 19.3 points per game in the last 15. He needs 27. Now, he's an above average scorer, so we should expect that he scores maybe more than this 19.3 that Indiana's given up. But I don't know how much more over 19.3. Could be a difficult matchup. So let's go pull a projection up here for Jason Tatum, since you guys want to talk a little bit more about some unders. Now, he's going to project for nearly 29 points tonight. 29 points. So they like him to go over 26.5, obviously. That's a lot more. 28.9 versus 26.5. We're looking at him on 3 different books here. 2 of the books at 26.5. He is a betting favorite to go under. So this could be a case where we fade the projections. And we say, well, he's been going under quite a bit here. 30% hit rate at covering 26.5. Meaning 3 out of 10 games, he's gone over 26.5. Then we look at the last 5 games, only 1 out of 5, he's actually gone over 26.5. So I know it never feels great. It never feels comfortable taking it under on a player like Jason Tatum, but it is a difficult matchup. And the betting public is taking the under here despite the projections of 28.9 points. So there's one option for you. Another guy that maybe we consider, is he up on the board? Let's see. He is. Royce O'Neal at 7.5 points. Now, over the last 10 games for Royce O'Neal, 30% hit rate. Not very good. This is why we're considering the under. And then we look at the last 5 games. He's got a 60% hit rate. So much better in the last 5 than over the last 10. He's averaging just 8.2 points. So he's barely getting it done at 7.5. He's got a couple of games here where he's put up 15 against Golden State, 13 against Denver. But more often than not, he is not the first, second, or even third scoring option on the Utah Jazz. I'd probably say he's probably somewhere like around the 4th, maybe even 5th option. Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Bogdanovic, Gobert when he's healthy. Tonight it'll be Hassan Whiteside. So Royce O'Neal, he's kind of left with the scraps. so to speak. So let's go look at the matchup. He will be playing the small forward position. No, he's more of a power forward. He's more of a power forward. Bogdanovich more of the small forward. So let's go to the power forward position here and see how many points Detroit gives up to opposing power forwards. We know they're pretty bad against some of the other spots. We go down quite a ways here. Now this is, for me, more about where they rank and less about the number. And they rank pretty low on this list here, giving up 20 points per game to opposing power forwards in the last 15. But if you look at where they rank, that's what, the 10th fewest, right around there, 10th fewest points per game over the last 15 to the opposing power forwards. So it could be a difficult matchup for Royce O'Neal. Let's go ahead and type in his name here. I got him projected for 8.5 points, not 7.5 points on 3 different books. He's a betting favorite to go over at 8.5. On one other site, he's a big betting favorite to go under 8.5 at minus 150 odds. So at 7.5, it might be a little dicey to go under on Royce O'Neal, but I'm just reporting what I'm seeing here. He's got very low hit rates at 7.5 points. Not a lot of points, you know. It could be very, very achievable against a bad Detroit team. But he's another guy who's popping off on the low hit rate for points. So let's see what you guys are up in here talking about. Looks like Adam's saying that he needs to brag. He hit every pick last night, a 15x, a 10x, a 10x, and a 2-pick power play. That is awesome, Adam. Congratulations to you. Love seeing it. Yes, we will take, Royster, we will take some of your picks and plays toward the end of the show. I don't have to go scrolling through the chat, scrolling through what you guys are talking about. If you could hold off till the end, then we'll take whatever favorite picks and plays you guys are talking about. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and move it on over to the rebound portion of the show. We're going to start things off with the high hit rate rebounders, and then we'll look at the low hit rate guys. You guys want to talk about more unders? We'll talk about some more unders. That's no problem. First guy that we need to take a look at here is Isaiah Beef Stew Stewart of the Detroit Pistons, because at 7.5 boards, he has covered this prop in 90% of his last 10 games. That's a 9 out of 10 hit rate. Very, very high hit rate for Isaiah Stewart. You look at his last 5 games, a very high hit rate as well. 100% in fact. He has covered this in 5 straight games, averaging 9.8 rebounds per game. Now he's going up against Utah tonight, which typically starts Rudy Gobert, but tonight it'll be Hassan Whiteside, who is no slouch. He is still a very quality big man. You know, maybe he's on the other side, the other end of his career, on the way down, so to speak, but still a very serviceable, very good big for the Utah Jazz. So it's not going to be an easy matchup. Just because Gobert's not in there doesn't mean we lock in Isaiah Stewart instantly. But 7.5 rebounds, pretty low for a guy like Isaiah Stewart, who is typically known to be a pretty good rebounder. So we'll go to the center position. We'll look at the last 15 games here. Last 15 games, we'll head on over to the rebounds and see how many that Utah gives up to opposing bigs in that span. Utah kind of down toward the bottom of the list here, giving up 14.4 boards. So that puts him like right around the 10th fewest. So it's going to be a difficult matchup for Isaiah Stewart. It's not going to be a walk in the park. So now let's go take a look and see what his projections are looking like. We'll head on over to the action projection tool. We'll type in Stewart. Now at 7.5 boards, I've got him projected for 7.2, which puts him under. Obviously. Now I got him at 8.5 on one site, 7.5 on another site, just for comparison's sake. At 7.5, minus 130 betting favorite to go over, but at 8.5, minus 135 betting favorite to go under. So it kind of lets you see how people are putting down their money depending on if Isaiah Stewart's at 7.5 or if he's at 8.5. So tough matchup, even without Gobert. Hassan Whiteside will be in there, and then they'll have the familiar faces for the Utah Jazz. Conley, Mitchell, Bogdanovich, and O'Neal are all projected to start for the Utah Jazz. So it looks good in terms of hit rates, but the matchup should be considered here for Isaiah Stewart. Looking at another guy who's been getting it done, his teammate, Diallo. Now, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. We know that the Detroit Pistons recently had their own issues where Cade Cunningham was out. Jeremy Grant obviously has been out. He's continuing to sit out for Detroit. But Isaiah Stewart, he missed some games. Detroit, just a couple games ago, they were missing a lot of like key players. And Diallo in that time kind of stepped up and took on a bigger role. So if you look at his game logs, it's like, wow, looks pretty good here, right? If we look at the last 10 games, we're like, wow, pretty good hit rate at 80% in the last 10. But we have to keep in mind that a lot of these teams, players have been in and out of the lineup, in and out of the rotation. So for Diallo here at 5.5 boards, he's covered this prop in 80% of the last 5 games, averaging 7.6 rebounds in that span. So we already talked about Utah being a tough matchup for centers. Diallo, kind of like what, power forward? Is that fair to say? Small forward. Him and Sadiq Bey kind of splitting time at those positions, the forward spots. But we go down and we find the Utah Jazz. They're giving up just 9.6 rebounds per game to opposing power forwards. So not a very good matchup for him. We go down and find Utah once again. For small forwards, they're giving up 8.4. So a little bit more of a friendlier matchup, I would say, for small forwards. So kind of gives you an insight there of this matchup for Diallo. Let's pull a projection up. I got Diallo going for 6.6 projected rebounds. Again, this is just a projection. This doesn't mean it's 100% a lock for him to get more than 5.5 rebounds. All right. These projection tools, they're helpful. That could be another key piece of your research for player props, but that doesn't mean they should be 100% trusted or leaned on as your end all be all. Like it says 6.6. This means it's a lock for 5.5 or more rebounds. No. Don't use projections to make your player prop decisions. Now, if somebody's projected to go over, maybe that could be like that little lean, that little push to get you over the hump, to go over or to go under. All right, but it's not the end all be all by any means. Now, seeing him at 5.5 rebounds across 3 different books, minus 140 betting favorite to go over, minus 135 betting favorite to go over, and minus 125 betting favorite to go over. So high hit rates. Last 10 games, 80%. Last 5 games, 80%. He is projected to go over here. 3 different books where the betting public's taking the over as well on Diallo's rebounds. So could be a good option for you. Could be a good option. Another guy who's been getting it done on the glass, Jaylen Brown. We talked about him being a favorite for an over on his points. But we also talked about Boston, who was without Jason Tatum for a string of games. 2 of these games in here where Brown pulled in 11 boards against Phoenix, 11 against Orlando. I think Tatum was out for both of those. Now with Tatum back, could be a little tougher. But I will say this. Tatum was back for the game against New York when Brown had 7 boards. He was also back against the other game against New York, the following game, where he had 11 boards. So Tatum's not really cutting into Brown's production all that much. Like Brown's still showing 11 rebound upside even with Jason Tatum in the lineup. So over the last 10 games, Brown 80% hit rate at 10 rebounds. Over the last 5 games, 100% hit rate at 5.5 rebounds. So he's averaging 9.2 per game. Let's look at this matchup here. Shooting guards. We go to the rebound position, or rebound column, I should say, going up against the Indiana Pacers. This is the last 15 games. Pacers giving up just 5.3 rebounds per game to opposing shooting guards over the last 15 games. So not a very plus matchup here in terms of shooting guards and rebounds. So Jaylen Brown could struggle tonight. He could struggle tonight. They're giving up 5.3. That means he'd have to get damn near every rebound that Indiana allows on a per game basis to the shooting guard position. He'd have to collect every one of them. And I don't know that that is feasible. I don't know that that's possible. Now, let's look at the small forward position too, because he's kind of shooting guard / small forward, and see how Indiana does there. We go all the way down here. They're giving up 6.9 rebounds per game to opposing small forwards. So again, they're putting the clamps on the rebounds for the shooting guard and small forward position. So it's not an easy matchup here for Jaylen Brown. This might be one where you consider going under. Or if you don't like taking unders, just fade it. If you're the type that just wants to play overs, then I would say maybe you fade this one in a difficult matchup. All right, let's go pull a projection up for Jaylen Brown. I got him projected for 6.9 rebounds, so nearly 7 rebounds. Now at 5.5, he's a betting favorite to go over on 2 different sites. Now you probably don't feel very comfortable taking an under on Jaylen Brown. at 5.5 rebounds, right? Seeing that he's hit in 100% of the last 5 games, seeing that he's hit at 80% in his last 10 games. You know the matchup's going to be tough, though. We just showed you that against Indiana. You'd have to have some pretty big stones to take the under on Jaylen Brown at 5.5 rebounds, in my opinion. But it could be worth a look. All right. Other guys getting it done here that you should consider for an over, maybe Mike Conley, 70% hit rate in his last 10 games. Mason Plumlee, another guy getting it done, 70% hit rate in his last 10. And Saddiq Bey, 70% hit rate for him. But he's really kind of been falling off with the return of Isaiah Stewart, Cade Cunningham and company. So you might want to be careful falling in love with the hit rates for Saddiq Bey. Now you guys want some under options. I'm not seeing a whole lot of them up on the board right now, but one that has not been getting it done is Killian Hayes at 2.5 rebounds. He has been going under 2.5 rebounds in 80% of his recent games. Royce O'Neal could be one that maybe you take an under on. At 6.5 boards on most sports books, he's at 6 on PrizePicks right now. Now, Gobert will be out, but again, we talked about Hassan Whiteside stepping in for Gobert. I don't think the drop-off is that steep, that significant when you go from Gobert's rebounding to Hassan Whiteside's rebounding. Yes, it'll be a drop-off. I'm not saying Hassan Whiteside rebounds as well as Gobert. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's not going to be as big of a drop-off as you might think. But nonetheless, at 6.5 rebounds over the last 10 games, Royce O'Neal has only covered two times out of the last 10 games. So 20% hit rate. So 80% of the time he goes under 6.5 boards over the last 10 games. And then you look at his last 5 games here. He has went for 6 or fewer rebounds in 4 out of 5. So maintaining sort of that 80% rate of going under. So let's go ahead and take a look at the matchup here for Royce O'Neal. We talked about him being an option to go under on points, but maybe the rebounds is the better look. He's typically playing more of that 4 spot for the Utah Jazz. So we go take a look at this matchup against the Pistons. Pistons, in terms of rebounds allowed to power forwards, you could see where they rank. So again, this is for me more about where they rank versus where or what the number is. They're giving up 10.1 rebounds per game, which puts them actually pretty low down on this list over the last 15 games. So right outside the top 10 fewest rebounds allowed to the power forward position. So this could be an option for you to go under. Now they have bumped him from 6.5 down to 6. So there's a chance that maybe he pushes. Maybe it's a tie. The other thing that I like about this is the fact that this game could blow out. It's like an 11-point spread, right? So maybe you go under on Royce O'Neal in this case. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection for Royce. I got him projected for 6.7 boards. At 6.5 rebounds on 3 different books, he is a betting favorite to go under. Minus 145, minus 135, minus 140 to go under 6.5 boards, which is why PrizePicks has rounded off the hook, that 0.5 that's known as the hook. They've shaved that off, rounded it down, and made it an even 6, so that there is a chance that maybe he ends up pulling in 6 boards. All right? So there you go. Seeing what you guys are tapping into here. With no Rudy, he got it. Giannis boards against a weak rebounding Hornets. Panthers is liking that one. Zed's talking about Brown needs to leave the boards to Robert Williams. It's bad enough that they don't pass to him. Kush-7 says, overs don't hit. Only believe in unders from now on. Listen, like I said, I tweeted something out a couple days ago. I said, if it looks like an over, it talks like an over, and it walks like an over, it's probably an under. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But that seems to be the case. When everything aligns and adds up to, man, this looks like a surefire overplay. It seems like these guys aren't hitting for whatever reason. Seems like they're not hitting. Shout out to Ja up next. Thanks for joining. Sean, thanks for joining. Alexis looking to bounce back. Let's try and get Alexis right, y'all. Andrew says he's taking the under on I don't know how you say his name. Hamidou points. Did I say that right? Hamidou points. All right. So there's some rebound options for you guys. Some overs, some unders to consider. Let's take a look at the assist category. Thank you so much for everybody joining. If you haven't slapped the like button yet for Money Making Monday, go ahead and take a moment. Do that now. I'm going to take a little sip of water here. Hopefully you guys are staying hydrated, sipping on something that is good for you. All right, looking at the top dime droppers, guys with the highest hit rates. The first one that stands out to me is Cade Cunningham, which is probably why he's not up on the PrizePicks board, but maybe you play somewhere else. And you can take Cade Cunningham at 5.5 assists at 5.5 dimes, 70% hit rate for Cade Cunningham. His team, oh, there he is. Did I miss him? Was he there the whole time? Anyway, sorry, Cade Cunningham is up on the board, but he's up on the board at 5 assists. 5 assists instead of 5.5. So maybe people are betting the under on Cade Cunningham here. But nonetheless, last 10 games, 70% hit rate. We look at the last 5 games for Cade. He's gone for 5 or more dimes in 5 straight games. So technically 100% hit rate. He's averaging 6.6 assists per game in that span as well. So he has shown an ability to get it done. I do worry a little bit. Sometimes Killian Hayes likes to cut into Cade Cunningham's productivity in the assist category. But let's go take a look at this matchup against the Utah Jazz here. Now, Cade functions pretty much as the point guard. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He does a little bit of everything, kind of positionless, but let's just say he's the point guard. He's probably the player who has the basketball in his hands the most. I think that's fair, right? Utah giving up 9.2 assists per game to opposing point guards over the last 15 games, which is the 6th most. So this does look like a plus matchup here for Cade Cunningham versus the Utah Jazz. Now, just for comparison's sake, let's go to the shooting guard position and see how many assists that they're giving up to opposing 2 guards. Utah, we got to go down the list here, giving up about 4.3, which puts them like more as a middle of the road average type of team. All right, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea on Cade Cunningham in this matchup. So let's go to the assist category, pull up Cade. He's projected for 5.1 dimes, 5.1 assists tonight. Now, 3 different books at 5.5 assists, seeing some big odds, big betting favorite to go under 5.5, which is probably why PrizePicks has went ahead and bumped him down to 5. At 5.5 assists, betting favorite to go under by minus 150 odds. All right. So high hit rate here, last 5 games, again, 100% hit rate. Over the last 10 games, 70% hit rate, but he is a big betting favorite to go under. Okay. Some other guys to look at, we talked about his backcourt mate, Killian Hayes, who's at 2.5 assists. If you can find him somewhere at 2.5 assists, 60% hit rate for him. Jason Tatum at 3.5 assists, 60% hit rate in his last 10 games. Since coming back, you see he missed some time here between December 25th and January 5th. Since coming back for Boston, he's gone over in 2 out of his last 3 games. He did fall short against New York, though, with just 1 dime. So a 60% hit rate over his last 5 games for Jason Tatum, averaging 4.4 in that span. So let's go take a look at the small forward position here. Tatum struggling to score. Maybe he's assisting a little bit more. Maybe that's where he's buttering his bread. Maybe it's not getting buckets. Maybe it's dropping dimes for other people to get buckets. He's going up against Indiana tonight. We're looking at the small forward position and seeing how many assists in the last 15 games that Indiana's giving up on a per game basis. They're giving up about 3.1 dimes. 3.1, which is less than 3.5. So even if he gets every single assist that the Indiana Pacers have been giving up over the last 15 games to opposing small forwards, he's going to most likely be closer to 3 dimes tonight than 4. Now, it's not set in stone or anything. I'm not saying it's a lock, because you would never hear that out of my mouth. But that kind of gives you an idea. Now, just for comparison's sake, because Tatum does spend some time at the 4 position at times for the Boston Celtics, we're going to go look and see how many assists are given up by the opponent tonight. The Indiana Pacers are giving up about 3.4. So they're not giving up like this crazy high amount of assists to either small forwards or power forwards. Tatum will literally have to account for every single assist that the Indiana Pacers give up on average to both positions, small forward and power forward. All right. So there's a chance that maybe he doesn't cover tonight. Let's go ahead and look at his projections at 4.3. That puts him over 3.5. We got 2 different books at 3.5. Betting favorite to go over at minus 130 and minus 135 odds. So what do you guys think? He has failed to cover this prop in 2 out of his last 3 games since returning from the COVID list. I believe that's why he was out. Is this another night where he falls short of 3.5 assists? Could be. Looks like a tough matchup against the Indiana Pacers. So despite his name popping up on some of the higher hit rates for assists, the matchup looks like it could be a difficult one. You guys are talking about the under. Trey Prince is talking about the unders have been good for a couple of weeks. I think finding your most certain over and mixing in 2 to 4 unders is the safest play for various reasons. He likes Cade under 5 assists also. Sometimes Cade struggles. Killian Hayes gets his hands on the basketball and he starts stealing some of them dimes. Job mentions a good point. Bobo of the Denver Nuggets, now with the Detroit Pistons. He was traded. He's wanting to know, is Bobo playing today for Detroit? I do not know. But I would assume that because the trade just happened, that maybe not. We may not see him tonight. But yes, I mean, unders are definitely nothing new. They do hit. Not everything hits for an over. For you folks who predominantly play overs out there, you could probably attest to this, that a lot of different things could point you toward taking an over on a player. But lately, a lot of these guys are coming up short, and we should be considering more unders than we do. I say that, and I have said that in previous shows and previous streams. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some unders when it comes to the assist category. A guy like Donovan Mitchell at 6.5 assists has hit this in just 30% of his last 10 games. He is not up on the PrizePicks board from what I can see here. Gordon Hayward at 3.5 assists, just a 30% hit rate over his last 10 games. He is not up on the board either. Now, this one will be interesting. Chris Middleton, because at 6.5 assists, he has just a 30% hit rate over the last 10 games, but there's no Drew Holiday tonight. So do we think Chris Middleton picks up more assists? Well, I could tell you this. This game here against Charlotte, which is coincidentally tonight's opponent, Milwaukee and Charlotte facing off again. No Drew Holiday in that game against Charlotte. He had 9 dimes. 9 dimes. So do you think he does it again? No Drew Holiday, same opponent. Is it rinse and repeat for Chris Middleton? Does he cover 6.5 again without Holiday around? Well, I'd like to look at who else was out for Milwaukee in that last game. There's a couple of guys that I think are game time decisions for Milwaukee. Maybe they impact things. So I would say pay attention to who was in and who was out in the last game. If there's anybody that has like re-entered the lineup, re-entered the rotation for tonight's game that you think are impactful to Chris Middleton, then maybe think twice about going over on these 6.5 assists. But he did get it done in the last game with 9 dimes. Maybe he gets it done again tonight. Let's just go take a look at the matchup here. Last 15 games, small forward position. We're going to go over to the assist category. Charlotte giving up 4.3 dimes. Now, obviously, that's less than 6.5. But I think in this case, we look at the ranking more than we look at the number. Now, Charlotte's giving up the third most assists over the last 15 games to opposing small forwards. So, yes, this is a plus matchup for Chris Middleton. And we know he'll have the ball in his hands more without Drew Holiday around. So maybe it is a rinse and repeat for Chris Middleton at 6.5 dimes. Let's go take a look at the projections for Middleton tonight. Middleton, I got him projected for 5 dimes, 5 assists. But at one site here, they've got him at minus 130 to go over 6.5. So some people out there, the betting public, are putting their cold hard cash on the over on Chris Middleton, thinking this is another one of those rinse and repeat situations. It's a back-to-back, same teams involved here, pretty much the same cast of characters involved here, and they think, why can't Chris Middleton just run it back and get 7 or more assists tonight against Charlotte? We know the game is going to be high scoring, and it looks like it's going to stay close and competitive. So we'll see. It remains to be seen, but that is an interesting prop at 6.5 dimes. Other guys with low hit rates. We got Giannis Antetokounmpo at 6.5 assists. Now, 6.5 assists. Most of those in the last 10 games have come with Jrue Holiday in the lineup. 40% hit rate over the last 10 games for Giannis. So he hasn't been covering 6.5 dimes in the last 10 with a very high success rate. Again, this is a rematch situation for Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Hornets. He had 3 assists in the last meeting, just one game ago, against this same team. He went under 6.5 assists. Do we see this shifting at all? Do we see maybe Giannis getting more of the assists and Chris Middleton's assists coming down? Or does everything stay exactly the same? I don't know. It remains to be seen. What you can do is use StatMuse to kind of look at something like this. So you can go Giannis assists without Jrue Holiday game logs. And then you can kind of take a look at his game logs. Now, I probably wouldn't go way back in time. I'd probably only look at this season, which is like these first, 8 games here. If you look at the dates, he had 2, 9, 7, 3, 6, 9, 9, and 3. So he's covered 6.5 assists without Jrue Holiday in 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So a 50% hit rate. So it's like a coin flip. It could go either way. Now going back to his teammate here, Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton assists without Jrue Holiday game logs. We look at how many times Chris Middleton has covered 6.5 dimes without Jrue Holiday from this season. So we got how many games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games from this season. Chris Middleton without Jrue Holiday. How many times has he covered out of the 6? 1, 2. 2 out of 6 hit rate. So this could be a regression spot. This could be a spot where maybe he doesn't get back to 7 or more assists. The hit rate's not very high here. It's a little scary. Could be a little intimidating because this game total is so high. It's 230 plus points and the spread is 2.5. But just a little more research that you can do. Dig a little bit deeper. Look beyond just the hit rates. Look beyond just the game logs. I'm going to keep stressing that to you guys. Don't fall in love with the green bars. Don't fall in love with the red bars. Like, dig a little deeper. Go beyond the surface. And that's kind of what I do every day in Discord. I'm not saying that we're winning every day and we're taking all PrizePicks money or anything like that, but that's the type of research that I'm trying to instill in others that are in the community. We got to dig deeper. We got to look beyond the surface of just hit rates or projections. There's more to it than that. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the projection for Giannis Antetokounmpo just to get a better idea. They got him projected for 5.6 assists, which puts him under 6.5. Now, on a couple of different sports books, they've got him at 7.5 assists, which is interesting to me because maybe they're thinking he gets more assists tonight than he did in the last game. Now, he's at 6.5 on one book, 7.5 on 2 other books. 7.5 betting favorite to go under at -135. But at 6.5, a betting favorite to go over at -135. So maybe the lines makers expect a little bit of a shift here. Maybe more assists go Giannis's way and less go Chris Middleton's way. We looked at the hit rates for Middleton. Not great without Jrue Holiday. Maybe he had a lucky game in the assist department. All right. There you go. I'm not going to keep going into this any further than that, but kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. Now, let's wrap things up here by going to the 3-point category. Hopefully you guys are learning something this morning. Hopefully you guys are changing the way you think about player prop research, and we're leading everyone to more profitable ways to research your player props. That's the goal anyway with this content, to help as many of you as possible. If I am helping you, thank you for liking this video. Thank you for liking this live stream. That is a great way to say thank you. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these 3-point props, shall we? The guys with the high hit rates. Bojan Bogdanovic right there at the top of the list. Last 10 games have been good to Bogdanovic. At 2.5 threes, 70% of his last 10 games, he has gone over 2.5 3-point makes. If we look at the last 5, it gets even better. 80% hit rate, 4 out of 5, averaging 3.2 3-point makes in that span. He's shown 4 and 5 3-point make upside in the last 5 games. So he's definitely been in his bag when it comes to scoring the basketball. So we talked about his points being maybe a good option for you. Now we're looking at his 3-point props. We're going to go to the small forward position. We're going to head over to the 3 p.m., which stands for 3-point shots made. We're looking at the last 15 games, and we're looking at tonight's opponent. The Detroit Pistons in the last 15 games are giving up the first most 3-point makes. The first most 3-point makes to opposing small forwards in the last 15 games. This is the best matchup. The best matchup you can ask for when it comes to 3-point makes is this team, the Detroit Pistons. Now, we talked about it earlier. Maybe you consider Mitchell the small forward. Maybe you consider Bogdanovich more the shooting guard. You know, it's a positionless game more and more with the NBA. But let's go look at the Pistons and see how many threes they give up to opposing shooting guards. 2.7. So it's a lot better matchup if Bogdanovich is more of the small forward. Now, shooting guard, small forward, both wing players, right? We just kind of call them wings. Somebody's going to probably eat here against Detroit, whether it be Mitchell, whether it be Bogdanovich. But it looks like a pretty good matchup for the small forward position. But I do expect one of these two guys to hit their 3-point prop. So let's head over to the action projection tool. We will type in Bojan, and we got him projected for 3 3-point makes today. 3 3-point makes is more than 2.5. Minus 115 betting favorite to go over 2.5. Okay. So there you go. Projections like them. The matchup for small forwards in terms of 3-point makes, looking great. 80% hit rate in the last 5 games. 70% hit rate in the last 10 games for Bogdanovich. He has been knocking down some triples. Maybe he does again tonight. Josh says, I used to lose all the time before finding your channel. So you're winning more, hopefully. That sounds good. We like more wins, or at least, you know, you're thinking a little bit differently about player props and putting in a little bit more research and a little bit more time before you just click the over and under. Good job. Love to hear it, man. So we talked about Bogdanovich being in a good spot. Donovan Mitchell at 3.5 3-point makes. This guy has hit this in just 50% of his last 10 games. So 5 out of 10 hit rate. Now, in the last 5 games, 3 out of 5. So that's a 60% hit rate. A little bit higher, a little bit higher. We talked about this matchup for shooting guards being a little bit more difficult against Detroit in the 3-point make category. Now he's coming off of a 6 3-point make game. If you look at the holding pattern here in his last 5 games, he goes for 6 threes against Minnesota, comes back down, hits just 2. Then he shoots back up to 5, comes back down, and hits just 1 against Denver. Hit 6 in his last game against Indiana. What does that mean for tonight? In order for him to hit 4 3-point makes in this matchup, there's going to have to be a lot that goes right. And the game, in my opinion, will probably have to stay close, which we don't expect this to happen because it's a double-digit spread right now. It could be a blowout. So maybe you go under on Mitchell and you go over on Bogdanovich at a more palatable 2.5 3-point make number. Bogdanovich looks to have the better matchup. I got Mitchell projected for 3.8 3-point makes, but at 3.5, betting favorite, minus 140 to go under 3.5 against Detroit tonight. 2 different books, both minus 140 to go under 3.5. So maybe he is an option for you to go under on. You kind of see this weird little pattern that's starting to form here. Up, down, up, down, up. Maybe tonight's a down. Tough matchup for Mitchell. Let's see. Anybody else standing out here in terms of 3-point makes? Not really. I want to say that Gordon Hayward's kind of been all over the place. Yeah, I mean, you could maybe go under on him. He made just 1 3-point make against Milwaukee in their last game. So it could be another tough game here for Gordon Hayward. Just a 20% hit rate over those last 5 games. Do you think he has another game where he stays under 2 3-point makes? I know it sounds like a number that's so easily hittable at 1.5, especially when you consider the player, Gordon Hayward, but maybe he stays under again. I don't know. All right, let's kick it on over to chat. You guys go ahead and leave some of your favorite props. I've covered points, rebounds, assists, and 3-point makes. We've talked about some overs, some unders. You guys wanted me to discuss a little bit more of the underplays because it seems like things have been favoring the unders here lately. So I did that for you. Now you guys let me know which plays you're liking while I get my H2O. All right, I'm seeing a couple of options in here. Mike G5 is saying Anthony Simons fantasy points. Is it Simons or Simmons? I've always said Simons. But let's go look at Anthony. Young player for the Portland Trail Blazers. He's facing off against the Brooklyn Nets tonight. He's at 35 fantasy points. Kind of been running things without Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum around. Now, helping things out further here, potentially helping things out, or maybe the defense will be able to key on him a little bit more. Norman Powell is out tonight for Portland as well. So no Norman Powell, no Damian Lillard, no CJ McCollum. Simon should have the green light, should have the keys to the team. Now, I don't, again, know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe the defense can really double team, trap, pressure him. He's a young player. How will he handle the extra added attention? That remains to be seen. But looking at the shooting guard spot here, we can go find the Brooklyn Nets and see how many fantasy points are given up per game. They're giving up about 39.6 per game, which is kind of just middle of the pack, middle of the road average. Not a plus or minus matchup for Simons at shooting guard. Now, looking at the projections for Simons, we're going to be using the Fantasy Labs projection tools. They got him projected for 27.9 fantasy points right now, folks. 27.9, and his rating is just 65.5. So he is not looking like a very sexy, very attractive play right now for an over. He's looking like an underplay according to the projections on Fantasy Labs. Now, his ceiling right now sits at 40.4. He's at 35 here on PrizePicks, which means in order for him to get 35.1 or more fantasy points, he's probably going to have something close to a ceiling type of game. So it could be a tough matchup. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Let's go take a look here and see what other ones you're talking about. George is saying Miles Turner unders are always favorable. Now, is that more of a recent thing with Brogdon and LeVert being out? Has Turner unders kind of been working out more because those guards are out? The guys who set him up. If Brogdon's in, I wonder how much that impacts Turner. That's kind of what I'm thinking, a question maybe. You guys are saying Anthony has been money since Dame has been out. Turner rebounds. You're saying Turner rebounds have been a good way to go. Under on Miles Turner. Okay, let's take a look at him real quick. See what you're liking here about this prop. And he's facing off against Boston. At 7.5 boards in his last 5 games, has only covered this number once, a 20% hit rate. So far, so good in terms of looking at Miles Turner for an under. Now, I want to say that despite Robert Williams, Al Horford, and some of these other boys for the Boston Celtics, that Boston's been giving up a pretty decent amount of rebounds. That's what I want to say. Let's go look at it, though, just to be sure. Yeah, I mean, they're giving up 16.3 boards. 16.3 boards, kind of just outside the top 10 or right around the top 10 most over the last 15 games to the center position. So it's definitely more of an easier matchup than difficult. But like you said, Miles Turner, sometimes he finds himself camping on the outside a little bit too much. I hope he matched up against Horford No, he might be matched up against Robert Williams. I'm not sure how they're gonna like split that up. If Sabonis will be on Williams or if Turner will be on Williams. It'll be interesting to see. The reason I mentioned that is because on offense, if Turner is on Horford, maybe he plays further away from the basket. Horford might drag him out, space the floor a little bit more, sit out at the 3-point line. If he's on Robert Williams, Williams doesn't really have any of that outside shooting that Horford does, right? So that could be a difference maker, who he's matched up with, who he's guarding on the defensive end. But let's go take a look at a projection here for Turner. You can see the hit rates, folks. Very low on Turner. Projected for 7.3 boards, which is obviously less than 7.5. Now at 7.5, he is a betting favorite to go under 7.5 boards, minus 135 odds right now. So that could be an under option for you. Zay Paid says they took Giannis off. What did they take Giannis off for? Was it assists or something? I mean, I'm still seeing Giannis up on the board. Let me refresh. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I don't know. I don't know what that means, my friend. Let's go down and see what other plays you guys are talking about here. KPJ under 15.5. Cam, you're liking some Kevin Porter Jr. under 15.5 points. There, I got him at 13.5. If you're talking about points, where are you getting him at 15.5? Because that's a nice number. 13.5 might be a little bit more difficult. I'm going to just quickly pull up a projection on this one for Porter. Yeah, he's at 13.5 out on the sports books too. I don't know, maybe you made a typo. But 15.5 points. Yeah, I would say definitely take the under at 15.5. At 13.5 though, it could be a little bit more difficult. But he has gone under in 5 straight games. And Philadelphia, they are pretty tough against opposing guards when it comes to points. Pretty tough. Let's look at it. Yeah, 19.4, which is the second fewest. So if I flip it around this way, second fewest points per game allowed to opposing point guards. If we look at the shooting guard position, Philadelphia over the last 15 games, 20.9, almost 21 points, but you can see they're like down toward the bottom of the list. Middle, but down toward the bottom. So yeah, you could go under on Kevin Porter, possibly at 13.5. He is not projected on Action Labs right now. I don't have a projection for him. Let me reload. Maybe they've added it. Maybe I'm just late to the game here. Nope, no projection for him. But yeah, 13.5, you're seeing people slap the under on KPJ. Tony, you're liking Curry assists. Talking about Seth Curry, I assume. He's up to 5 assists now. Wow. 5 assists. He's going up against Houston. Last time he faced the Rockets, he had 5 assists. So there's a chance it pushes. There's a chance it's a tie. 5, 6, 5, 12, and 7 over the last 5 games. 5 or more assists in 100% of those games, averaging 7 assists. So I can kind of see why you're liking the over here. Just based on hit rates. Don't have a projection. Don't have a projection for him. He's at 5.5 on most of your books tonight. And he's a minus 140, minus 155 betting favorite to go under 5.5. So if you're liking the little bit of value that you get with him being at 5 versus 5.5, maybe you can take the over here. And worst case, I think you end up in a push or tie situation. Sean, we talked about some Jaylen Brown points earlier. I think it looked pretty good at 23.5. 23.5, and I think Tatum was at 26.5. We discussed possibly liking some Jay Brown over 23.5 and some Tatum under 26.5. Could be a good look. Yeah, Andrew's kind of echoing what I was saying just a moment ago. Turner is like a stretch center. Meaning he's like Brook Lopez, who likes to just sit out there at the three-point line and be a big old waste of space. So it could be an underplay on the rebounds. Sean's also looking at some LaMelo over assists. LaMelo Ball, 7 assists facing off against Milwaukee tonight. He had 8 in the last game against Milwaukee. Do you think he gets back up to 7 or more assists tonight? He could. But looking at his last 5 games, it's been a little shaky. 60% hit rate, though. Decent. Not bad. Let's pull up a projection here for LaMelo real quick. Again, don't let this be the end of your research. Let this be the beginning. That's the intention with these live streams, these shows, to kind of spark your imagination, get your juices flowing, your mental juices flowing here a little bit, come up with some ideas, some different ways that you can approach tonight's NBA slate. But at 7.5, he is a betting favorite to go under at -140, -155 respectively. So that is why PrizePicks has taken him down to an even 7 assists. Projected for 7.1. So he's not at like 7.9 or anything like that. Nothing crazy. You're wanting to take the over? Maybe. I'd say maybe. Maybe you take the over and he ends up in a tie situation. Worst case. So. The other Sean Spishak, is liking Bobby Portis boards over. Bobby P. Is it going to be free Bobby P night once again? I know he had a good night the other night against Charlotte on the glass, pulling in 13 big rebounds, and that was with Giannis Antetokounmpo around. How many did Giannis have in that game? He had 12. So both of these guys covered their lofty rebound props. 9.5 for Portis, 11.5 for Giannis. Both guys ended up going over that number. Now, Portis has shown more upside than Giannis. In other words, if you look at the totals from the last handful of games here, 14, 12, and 13, he's shown an ability to not just barely cover 9.5, but really go over it and soar past it. Where Giannis, like at 11.5, 12 here, 12 against Orlando. He did have 16 against New Orleans. But he's not typically, in the last 5 games, not typically blowing the doors off of 11.5 rebounds, where Portis seems to show a lot more rebounding upside here. So let's look at the matchup real quick. Center position, rebounds, Charlotte Hornets giving up the second most rebounds per game to opposing centers. But I've been getting into the habit of not just looking at this as just like a binary thing, like Portis center. I also want to look at the power forward spot, like both bigs. I've been looking at power forward and center, or like point guard, shooting guard, and kind of combining the two. Because again, NBA is becoming more and more positionless, right? So let's look and see how they do against opposing power forwards in the rebound department. 11.4. So just overall, no matter if you're a power forward or a center, if you're a big man and you're playing the Charlotte Hornets, you are in a very favorable matchup against the Hornets. There's going to be a ton of points scored between both teams, which means a lot of shots are going to be going up. And I think there should be plenty of rebound opportunities. So he pulled down 13 boards against the Hornets in his last game. This could be a spot for you to take an over once again on Bobby P. Bobby P. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection on Portis for you folks. Got him going for 11 rebounds. Projections like Bobby Portis to go over 9.5. But what's weird about this, seeing a lot of mixed signals here out on these various sports books. -140 on DK to go under 9.5. -150 on BetMGM to go under 9.5. But -145 to go over on PointsBet. What's going on here, betting public? What the heck are you doing? So they're kind of all over the place. But for me, I think the matchup doesn't get much better than this. I mean, you guys see it. Last 15 games, center position, Charlotte giving up 18.4 rebounds. Makes a lot of sense to like the over here. Let's just look at the last 7 games. Has things improved for Charlotte over the last 7 games? Not a whole lot. They're giving up a little bit less, but still 17.8. That is the 6th most Very good matchup. He needs 10. We don't need him to get 17.8. We need 10. 10 out of Bobby Portis. And there's no DeMarcus Cousins around anymore to get in his way. So, yeah, I don't mind that. Don't mind that at all. Michael Collier. You're liking some Embiid over on points. Do you think this game stays close long enough for Joel Embiid to cover 30.5 points? He's on a string of games here of 30-plus point games. 36, 34, 31, 31, and 31. Last time he faced Houston, 31 points. Barely getting over the hump at 31, but he did get it done. He did get it done. And he's coming off of, he's on 3 days rest. He should be fresh, should be rejuvenated, ready to go. So this could be a good matchup here for Joel Embiid. Let's go back to the center position, see how many points that are being given up by the Houston Rockets. They're number one, guys. Last 15 games, they're giving up 30.6 points per game to opposing centers. The first most in all the league. Looking at the last 7 games, 34.7 points per game to the center position by the Houston Rockets. I'm sure Embiid had a little bit to do with that. But you can see they're not actually getting any better on their interior defense. They're getting worse. They're giving up 3 more points per game over the last 7 games than they were over the last 15 games. So the matchup for Embiid, pretty darn good here. Not getting any better than this. Projection, don't have one for whatever reason. Some of the projections are in here, some of them are not. But we can look at the the different sports books out there. We've got him at 30.5 points, just like he is on PrizePicks. But I'm seeing a little bit of favoritism toward the under at 30.5. At some point, does the string of 30-point games end? I think it does. But I don't know that I would want to bet that it ends tonight against the team that is giving up the first most points per game to opposing centers, which is over 34 points per game. I don't know that this is the one that I want to pick. I don't think I want to put my money on the under on Joel Embiid against the worst team, okay? Against centers. Scrolling through here, let's see what else you folks are talking about. My little chat window's acting kind of funky here. Let me see if I can close this and pull this thing back up. Bear with me one moment. No, it's just acting funky. Can't really scroll up very well, but we're making it happen. See what else you guys are talking about. Lance over on fantasy points. DeJounte Murray over on fantasy points. So a couple of fantasy points requests here. Let's take a look at those. Lance Stevenson, folks. I don't know if you've been paying attention to Born Ready. Lance Stevenson. But the dude's been hooping. Now, I can't find him on the board. Where the heck is he? There he is. It's because he doesn't have a picture. PrizePicks, get Lance Stevenson a picture. Make it the picture of him blowing in LeBron James's ear. Can we have that? That would be hilarious. If all you see is Lance Stevenson like, that would be epic. I'm going to see if I can make that happen. Lance Stevenson, folks, 27 fantasy points, 2 games in a row now. 38 and 55, respectively, for the Indiana Pacers. For me, this is all going to hinge on, is Malcolm Brogdon in or out? I do not click this prop until I know if Malcolm Brogdon is in or out. He is a game time decision at the moment, last time I checked. Okay? So let's pull up a little matchup here. Lance Stevenson, is he a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? Well, I don't know. He's a guard. We'll call him that. Or maybe he's a forward. I don't know. But Indiana's pretty thin in the backcourt. They're facing off against Boston tonight. Boston giving up about 46 fantasy points per game to point guards. Shooting guards against Boston having a little bit more of a difficult time. They're giving up the third fewest fantasy points per game in the last 15 games to the 2-guard spot. And if you want to call Lance Stevenson a small forward, I ain't mad at it. They're getting up 37.7, which is the 7th fewest. So shooting guards and small forwards have kind of been getting clamped down a little bit by the Boston Celtics. All right, so I don't know that I'm like in love with it just based on what I'm seeing matchup wise over the last 15 games. I got Lance going for 26.3 fantasy points right now. But again, I got to see what's happening with my man Malcolm Brogdon. Okay? See what else you guys are liking. Jakob Poeltl, over 8.5 boards. Well, I love me some Jakob Poeltl. He's a pretty solid player. If this game can stay close and competitive, maybe Poeltl gets it done. He's been showing great form, great rebounding upside over the last 5 games. You can kind of take a look at these game logs here. 12, 12, 14, and 12 against Brooklyn. Did have 6 against Philadelphia. Tough matchup there, though, against Joel Embiid. I do think that game ended up blowing out, which could have hurt Poeltl's upside. But with all the guys out for the San Antonio Spurs, you can see the last 5 games have been very good for Jakob Ninja Turtle Poeltl. So let's look at this matchup here. The center position, go to the rebound category. Go find the New York Knicks. How many boards are they giving up to opposing centers over the last 15 games? Just 12.4, folks. Tough matchup here. 3rd fewest. So the 3rd most difficult matchup here in the last 15 games for opposing centers when it comes to rebounds. All right, so that's not looking good. Let's look at the last 7 games just for comparison. New York holding pretty strong here. 3rd fewest over the last 7 games as well. 11.6 boards allowed to opposing centers. Now, all he needs is 9. Now, he's shown 12, 12, 14, 12 rebound upside over the last 5 games. I'm not saying it's impossible. But it does look like he's going up against one of the tougher teams. I got him projected for 9.8 boards, which, again, puts him over 8.5. But the betting public taking the under here. Minus 120. Minus 125 betting favorite to go under 8.5. So we got to say that this matchup is difficult, right? I showed you last 7 games, last 15 games against opposing centers. The Knicks holding strong, giving up the 3rd fewest rebounds per game to opposing big men. Projections love them. Hit rates look good. But the betting public is also betting the under here on Poeltl as well. So there you go. A little more insight on Jakob Poeltl. Alex Len. Someone's saying they think that they like Alex Len's rebounds. Is he up on the board? That would be like one of the first times I've seen Alex Len on the board. I don't see him up on the PrizePicks board. But I won't leave you hanging. Maybe I will. I don't have a projection for Alex Len's rebounds. Sorry, Isaac. I tried for you, my friend. Sean, you're liking the under on Christian Wood's 3s. Well, let's go see. Christian Wood, he's at 1.5 3-point makes. He did cover against Minnesota, dropping 4 triples on them. 4 threes in the last game against Minnesota. Looking at the previous 4 games, it's pretty ugly. 1-0-0-1. Not very good. Let's look at this matchup against Philly. He did not play against Philadelphia the last time these 2 teams met, so we do not have a previous game log to kind of reference. Philly giving up the 3rd most threes in the last 7 games to opposing centers, which is where Christian Wood spends his time, right? At the 5. Is that fair? Or is he more of a power forward in your mind? Philadelphia, they're giving up 1.5 3-point makes to opposing power forwards. So, better matchup if Christian Wood's spending time at the center position in the last 7 games, I would say. Fair to say. Let's see if I got a 3-point prop here for Christian Wood. Again, no projection for him. But I can tell you this, he is a betting favorite at minus 125 to go over 1.5 threes. So they're kind of expecting him to knock down at least 2. And it does look like a good matchup on paper versus the Philadelphia 76ers. All right, let's go ahead and go through a few more of these here. We're reaching, we're at the past the 90-minute mark. I'll take a few more. 5-game NBA slate. Appreciate everybody joining me, by the way. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the eyeballs, for all the support. Whether you're liking, whether you're joining us on Patreon and supporting me through Patreon. I've got a community set up through Discord and all that. Links to all that stuff down in the description below. Whatever way you choose to support. Again, I'm humbled and appreciative. Definitely. We've grown a lot since I started this, and I'm thankful. Appreciate you guys. But yes, he does not like to rebound. I'm guessing you mean Miles Turner. Yeah, I agree. He likes to sit out there and be a 7-foot point guard. Killer Prop says, before we go there, let's get these likes up for our man CJ. Let's go. Fellas and ladies. There's ladies in this building too. We can't leave out our ladies, okay? There's some ladies up in here watching too, believe it or not. Maybe it's mostly males, but ladies love the NBA too. Andrew liking some Terry Rozier for threes more than his points. Yeah, we're not getting Terry Rozier up yet on the 3-point prop. Maybe we will later on in the night, but I got him projected for 3-point makes. Now, if he's up on the board at 2.5, then the betting public liking it as well. Minus 145, minus 150 betting favorite to cover 2.5 threes. Terry Rozier's got the green light, folks. He can shoot and shoot whenever he wants, it seems like. Sean, yeah, we talked about Portis boards. I think Portis boards is a good look. Great matchup for him. Covered it in his last game. Michael Collier's liking some Hayward over 4.5 rebounds. Gordon Hayward over 4.5 boards. He covered in his last game against Milwaukee with 5. And looking at the last 5 games, he's covered in 80% of his games. He's averaging 6 boards over the last 5 games. So we think that maybe Gordon Hayward's in play for an over facing off against Milwaukee again. Rematch game, huh? What I'll do is quickly pull up a projection for you for Hayward. Got him at 5.5 boards. So they got him 1 rebound higher, projected to pull in 1 more rebound than his line today of 4.5. Seeing some strong betting action here, minus 145 over 4.5. So we talked about this game being high scoring, should stay close, should stay competitive. I don't hate the over on Gordon Hayward. I don't hate it. Isaac with Powell out, with Lillard out, with McCollum out. Simon should have the green light. Sam is talking about some Jason Tatum versus Moore. Liking the matchup for Tatum. At 26.5 points, you think he covers? It's been a number that's been tough for him to cover lately. Pirtle is at 3.5 rebounds on hot streak. Well, that seems like a mistake. 3.5 rebounds? Seems entirely too low. Jalen, Miles Turner looks safer for an under. I'm hoping or expecting you to take the under on Turner, I guess. Panthers 4L for life. Panthers for life. Kyrie over 19.5 points. Nets are going to look to lighten KD and Harden's load after that overtime game yesterday. Yeah, Mills too. Mills played a lot of minutes yesterday against the Spurs. So maybe Kyrie's getting his legs under him. Maybe he's getting that wind right, that stamina, that cardio. And you think that maybe they lean on Kyrie a bit more. He's got 1 game log. Look at that. That's funny. 19.5 points. He covered this against Indiana with 22 points. Facing off against Portland, their backcourt totally decimated here. If you're going to play any props from this game, probably want to go first half only. But Portland, over the last 7 games, giving up the second most points to opposing point guards, 27.7. Now, because Kyrie and Harden kind of flip-flop, they're kind of positionless, they're both just kind of like guards. Let's look at the shooting guard spot. Portland giving up less points to the shooting guard spot, 18.7. But if you are buying into what my man is saying here, Panthers is saying that he thinks the Nets will look to lighten the load for both KD and James Harden tonight after going into overtime against the Spurs, then maybe you ride the over on Kyrie Irving. I'll pull up a projection for you on Kyrie. Give you a little more of an idea of what the projections are saying. Oh my goodness. Woo! 25.4. They got him projected for 25.4 points tonight. Again, projections are never a lock. They're never 100% right. They're never set in stone. They're never a sure thing. But 25.4 points is pretty big compared to 19.5. And on two different books, minus 120, minus 125, betting favorite to go over. And we know the matchup against Portland is a very good one. So that could be a look for sure. For sure. Killer Prop says, just follow my plays. If I take an over on a solid pick, they're going to go under, so jump on it. Man, doesn't it feel like that, Killer Props? Doesn't it feel like that lately? When all signs say over, man, it just feels like under is going to hit. It's weird. Been weird lately. I will definitely agree with you on that. Jay Stino says, hashtag replay gang today. What up, CJ? What up to you, Jay? Just scrolling through a few more of these questions here. See what else you guys are liking. Do we have any free throw props up yet? You guys are talking about some. Oh, they added some. They added some. Sweet. Sweet. Folks are talking about waiting on Joel Embiid's free throws. Listen, I ain't mad at it. But depending on what the number is, he's not up on the board just yet. If he's up at like 9 free throws, guys, that's a whole lot of free throws. I'd have to wait and see, what they're going to put Embiid's free throws up at. Joel Embiid's assists. Is he up on the board for dimes? He is. He's at 4. Yeah, he's covered this prop, covered in 2 out of his last 5 games. Tied or covered in 4 out of the last 5 games. So an 80% hit rate technically. Last time he faced Houston, he had 10 assists against the Rockets. Holy crap. Do we think he runs that back? Do we think he hits more than 4 assists against the Rockets tonight? Could. I guess he could. His projection, for whatever reason, I don't have one, but he's at 4.5 assists on 3 different books. Now, at 4.5, he's a minus 145 and minus 140 betting favorite to go under 4.5. Curious. Let's refresh. I just want to see if maybe they've added a projection for that. Nope. No projection just yet. But yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good too. I'd probably lean toward the over on that Embiid assist number, being that he had 10 against Houston. Don't expect him to have 10 again, but all we need is like 4 at least to push, 5 to go over. I ain't mad at it. Miles Bridges, Hank the Tank Meyer, liking some Miles Bridges over 17.5 points. Bridges, not Turner. 17.5. He had 21 against Milwaukee the last time they faced off. January 8th, 2 days ago. 19 and 23. So 3 straight games where he's covered this prop. You're thinking that maybe he does it again, huh? Let's pull up a projection real quick here. I do have him at 18.8, so the projections like him. Projections do like him. 4 different sites here. 3 of the 4 seeing a betting favorite to go over 17.5. So maybe you're onto something there. Seth points versus Houston. I'm going to just buzz through these real quick, guys, because we are reaching that point of the show where it's time to say goodbye. Seth Curry, 16.5 points, is covered in 3 out of 5 games. 60% hit rate. Last time he faced Houston, though, just had 15 points. It was definitely an Embiid type of game. Let's see what Curry's projected for today. No projection. Drat. But I'm seeing some mixed signals out there on these different books. Over on one, under on another, split or even on another, over on another one. So I don't know. Looks a little dicey for me. I think there's better options for you tonight. Sabonis. David Reeves, you want to take the over on Domantas Sabonis at 0.53s? Ooh. Well, if Brogdon's in, I'd probably like this a little less. I would probably like this a little less if Brogdon's in. So I'm going to wait. On these Indiana Pacer props, I'm going to wait. Let's see if I have a Sabo 3-point projection for you. I do. I got him projected at 0.9, which puts him really, really close to 1. Minus 135 to go over, minus 140 to go over on 2 different books, 2 different sites. All right. Jalen wants to know, so what is my best bet? Well, listen, Jalen, this is not at all, like I said, meant to be the end-all be-all when it comes to research. I'm going to dig in even further whenever I get off of this. Well, I'm going to go eat some lunch, and then I'm going to dig in even further. So I'll be in Discord, Patreon later, and posting stuff to those sites, some things that look even more interesting to me. But this is by no means the end of my research. This is just the beginning, and I encourage you guys to take this and run with it. All right, and go even further with your player prop research. There's a whole lot of questions, a whole lot of things here that you guys are talking about that I'm probably not going to be able to get to. I have done the best that I can, humanly possible here, to take as many questions as I can, but this is going to be where I say goodbye for today. But I'll be back here tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time to do more NBA player prop research. And I also want to announce for everybody that's here, I'm going to do some NFL live streams for you folks as well. It's playoff time. It's NFL playoff football time. So you guys have been asking for some NFL. I know it's the end of the season, but look, this is the best time to get in on some NFL during the playoffs. So I will be doing some NFL shows. I'll be pulling double duty. You'll get an NBA show out of me, and you'll get as many NFL shows as I can possibly manage by myself here, okay? So NBA and some NFL coming real soon. Stay on the lookout for that. Make sure notifications are turned on, and make sure you're subscribed, or else you're going to miss out, okay? Thank you for joining me, folks. I will catch you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, peace.